In part 1, I demonstrated how to create a custom lower third template. The template created was limited in its capability because it was only possible to modify the text string and its attributes. In this tutorial, I want to take that a step further. I'll be demonstrating how to change the length of the lower third template and how to manipulate its keyframes to accommodate that change. I'll also show how to modify the keyframe animation to take into account any large increase in the text string's length. The first thing to note is that it's not possible to make modifications to a template that's been imported. By modifications, I mean any change other than that allowed for published parameters. Because it's a composite shot, the individual layers are not accessible. To modify a template, you need to select the Edit button in the template list. So, having said that, I'll open the template list. From the list, I'll select the template called Lower Third Fly In, Fly Out. This is the lower third I created in part 1. Now I'll click the Edit button. The template is loaded into the media panel and is also opened up in the composite shot editor. For this demonstration, I want to change the lower third length from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. If I do this first, I'll disturb the outro keyframes, so I need to modify those first. So I'll open up the composite shot by clicking the expand arrow. Now I know that the parameter that's keyframed is the position parameter. This is contained in the transform section. You can now see on the timeline the 4 keyframes for the position parameter. As I'll be reducing the duration to 5 seconds, I need to move the 2 outro keyframes left by 1 second. To do this, I simply drag the mouse around the 2 keyframes, then drag the left-hand one to the 4-second mark. Next, I need to reduce the duration. On the template entry in the media panel, there's a Show Properties option. I can click this to open the properties for the template. With the Properties panel open, I can change the duration. As you can see, the composite shot timeline has reduced to 5 seconds. You can then close the composite shot editor down and drag the shot into position on the timeline. Okay, so that's how to change the duration of a template. It's worth noting that the change has only been made to the template in the media panel. The saved template retains its original characteristics. Subsequent use of the template on the timeline will be 5 seconds long. Now, say at some point you need a lower third that's 7 seconds long. You can't use this template, and you can't use the default template. You have two choices. First, and this is the preferred method, you can select the template from the template list and choose Edit, then modify the outro keyframes to suit. When you exit the composite shot editor, a second version of the template will appear in the media panel. You can then change the length as I described previously. You'll see that the duration value on the entry will update accordingly. The second method is to double-click the entry in the media panel. This will open up the template in the composite shot editor. You can make changes there, change the duration and close the editor down as I described earlier. The disadvantage of this method is that subsequent use of the template on the timeline will retain the changes. For that reason, the first method is the best. You can have multiple template entries in the media panel, using appropriate ones where necessary. The saved lower third template has a default text string length of 19 characters. If you find that you need more characters than that in your lower third, there's a good chance that the outro and intro animations will be incomplete. Let me show you what I mean. I'll import the lower third template and place it on the timeline. Now I'll modify the default text string as I described in part 1. To make the animation start and complete correctly, the parameters for the keyframes require modifying. I can't do that with an imported template, so I need to edit. I'm now going to change the default text string. As before, I'll open up the text layer and the transform section. At each of the keyframes, I need to modify the position of the text string so that the animations are complete. I'll first click on the position parameter, which will enable the keyframe manipulation icons. Now, at the first keyframe, the text must be fully off screen. At the next keyframe, it must be fully in the lower third position. To get to the next keyframe, click the appropriately named Next Keyframe icon. At the next keyframe, the text should be where it is now, but I know it won't be, so I need to copy this keyframe and paste it onto the next one. Copying a keyframe simply involves right-clicking on it and selecting Copy. I can now move to the next keyframe by clicking the Next Keyframe icon. Now I can paste the previous keyframe's properties onto this one. You should see the text take up its new position. At the last keyframe, the text should be in the same position as the first one, completely off screen. To achieve this, I'll copy the first keyframe and paste it onto the fourth. I can now close down the composite editor. I've just noticed I missed a space out after the A. Oh well. Don't forget that you've changed the template in the media panel, not the template in the template list. Once you've placed the template onto the timeline, that lower third's properties are fixed, except of course any properties declared as published. This means that you could, if you wanted to, double-click the template in the media panel, change its properties and use it elsewhere on the timeline. Also, don't forget, if you need to change the duration, you should do it using the Properties panel as described earlier. So, as you've seen, changing the characteristics of a template isn't a straightforward process. Sometimes it's a more efficient workflow to create several variations of a lower third so that their deployment is quick and easy. That's a decision only you can make. For the next tutorial, I'm thinking of dealing with the subject of keyframe interpolation modes. Join me for that if you can, and thanks for watching. Bye for now.